An inverse function is a function that's basically to just swap the roles of x and y. Okay, so right now this blue line is the graph of f of x. If we're considering usually use a bigger marker here. If you're considering the inverse function, which we use with this notation, which I always, that's okay. This notation is saying the inverse of the function f of x. So like your x variable is now your y variable, and this is usually the y variable, like this is y. Now this represents your x variable. So basically just think of an inverse as swapping x and y. So let's see, we have fx equals this. We're asked to find the inverse of -1. That means this is usually x, but now since we're talking about the inverse function, this is saying find where -1 is on the y-axis. Here's -1 on the y-axis. What does it spit out for x? So if we go down to -1, it spits out -4 on the x-axis. So that's what that evaluates to be. So this question asks us, it says given the function f of x in red, place the black draggable dot at the point that corresponds to f -1 equals -1. So -1. -1 on the y. Look at the red function, go down to -1 on the y, and it spits out -3 on the x. Okay? So I guess probably an easier way of saying this is, look, the original function is -3 on the x, -1 on the y. So our inverse function should be -3 on the y-axis and -1 on the x-axis. So that dot right there, because I switched the roles of x and y.